What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Showcase Sports Show. I am your co-host, Griffin Conant, alongside my partner in crime, Elijah Cornejo. How you doing, E?
I'm doing all right, Griff. How about yourself?
Oh, couldn't be better. Spent the weekend on a little camping getaway. It seemed like the sports world kind of paused for us while we were away during this weekend. Wouldn't you agree?
It did. Well, technically it did pause.
It
actually.
did. It waited for us to come back.
Yep. Due to the racial injustice protests, things were on hold for the weekend. All the leagues took a day break from playing their games, so it ended up pushing back the playoffs in both the NHL and the NBA, as well as pushing back baseball games. What were your thoughts about that, Griff?
Yeah, I think it just demonstrates throughout all of professional sports just kind of how powerful a player has become in each league. I think they have more of a voice, I would say, when it comes to these kind of topics. And it's definitely interesting to see kind of these players with their platform for a better cause, per se. Definitely interesting to see kind of what has occurred this past week. But yeah, like you said, all sports are returning as normal. There was kind of some talk there about the NBA possibly even suspending the rest of the season, which would have been very unfortunate. But it's good to see that they are continuing their season as planned. Well, before we tackle all of the topics in sports, let's play a little fan favorite that we like to play over the last few episodes. Blast from the Past. Of course, I am currently 2-0. Looking to make it 3-0. It's going to be tough. I've heard...
Not happening this week.
I've heard you've stepped up the game and have picked somebody that might be a little harder to guess. Is that true?
It is true. I saw this guy's name on Twitter the other day. I don't know. It's stuck in my head. I think I saw that for a reason, Griff. I think this might be my first dub this week.
Okay. All right. So you heard it here on the Showcase Sports Show. He's predicting a win.
That's not what I said. Okay, I did not predict it. I just said it might happen. I'm not going to guarantee anything after an 0-2 start. Okay?
That's fair. Fair enough.
I'm struggling right now.
Fair enough. Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Shall
we? I think since you went first last week, why don't I start us off? I'll do the guessing first.
Absolutely.
That sound good?
So he is a football player.
So you're switching back to the gridiron this week.
Going back to football.
Went football week 1, baseball week 2, back to football week 3.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
Question number 1.
Where did he play his college ball?
He played for USC, the Trojans.
USC.
Yep.
Okay.
He's a Southern Cal kid.
Okay. All right. Well, question number 2. What NFL team did he play for?
So over his career, he played for 2 different teams, both in the AFC. He played for the Cleveland Browns and the Miami Dolphins.
Ouch. That sounds like a tough career.
Yeah.
Brutal. I mean, Miami's nice, of course, to live there. And
but rough football team down
there. But not a lot of winning going on with the Dolphins and Browns.
Yeah.
Okay. So he played for the Browns and Dolphins. Question number 3 is what I believe I am on. What position did he play in the NFL or just throughout his whole career?
He was a tight end.
Tight end?
Tight end.
Yep. Tight end. All right. So you're going with the tight end card this week.
I am.
All right. Question number 4. Would you say this tight end, was he more of a blocking tight end or a receiving tight end?
Ooh, great question. I would have to say he was more of a receiving tight end.
Okay.
He was not too shabby in the run blocking game either, but he was more of a vertical threat.
Okay, so he was probably more viewed as a receiving threat, obviously.
Right.
Which means he might have been probably a bigger name in the NFL than most tight ends.
Right, exactly.
Than like Virgil Green.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somebody who's just...
Yeah.
He's not a huge receiving threat, but someone who just blocks. But he's the opposite, is what you're telling me.
Right.
Okay. Question number 5. Did he ever make a Pro Bowl appearance?
He did. He made 1 Pro Bowl.
Ooh.
1.
Ooh, okay. Okay, 1 Pro Bowl appearance. Can I ask what year that was? Is that allowed?
Oof.
Is that allowed as a question?
That's a tough question. I think we're going to have to go over here to our producer / judge of the game. She's like the referee of Blast from the Past. Audrey, we have a question.
Now, am I allowed to ask what year this tight end made it to the Pro Bowl without losing a question here in the game?
After much deliberation from the Blast from the Past scoring committee, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The question is legal.
So there it is, our head referee, Audrey, with the ruling. The question can be asked. So his Pro Bowl appearance was in 2013.
Okay, 2013.
Yes,
so pretty recently, I'd say.
Right.
Within the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Also, shout out. Thanks for letting that question go through. Really means a lot to me. Question number 6. Who was this man's quarterback for the majority of his career? Because this is going to tell me a lot. And I need to know the answer.
So to kick off his career, He had some pretty stellar quarterbacks, okay?
I can't wait to hear this.
Rookie year, Colt McCoy.
Okay.
Next 2 years after that, another legend, 29-year-old Brandon Weeden.
Wow.
Also a rookie at the time.
Yeah, he was like a 29-year-old rookie.
Yes, he was.
Both
Yep.
him and Colt McCoy, there's a similar pattern here. Both great college quarterbacks.
Right, and
Great.
both just horrible Cleveland Browns.
Yes,
Just
yes.
atrocious. And to top it off, in Cleveland, he had Brian Hoyer.
Wow, who's still in the league?
He is. He's
That
still
might be
making
his
a career for himself.
So that was. Would you agree that was his best quarterback?
Okay, so then after he moved on from Cleveland, he went to Miami and played ball with Ryan Tannehill. So
Okay.
probably him.
Okay. Wow.
My goodness.
Well, that's not saying
The
much.
poor guy wasn't gifted with a very
But he
great
made the Pro
quarterback.
Bowl with the Browns, right?
He did.
Just to clarify, in 2013.
2013 with,
That had to be.
that was
Whedon?
Brian,
Was it Reedon?
I think it was Brian Hoyer's year.
Or was it Hoyer?
It was
Okay.
Hoyer.
Well, that makes a little more sense, I
Yeah.
guess. All right, question number 7, folks. What number did this player boast on his jersey?
In both Cleveland and Miami, he wore number 84.
Number 84. That is such a receiving tight end number.
It is.
Like, there's no way number 84 is blocking on anybody's team.
You're right. Usually the blockers are number like 82.
That's a fact, by the way. I know. Or like, maybe like an 89 or like a
86. 86 is the blocking number.
86.
That's,
Yeah.
Name
Yeah.
a good receiving tight end number 86.
Let's
There's
just have
not
a
any.
let's just have a segment next week where we talk about numbers in the NFL.
Okay.
And what they mean to us. All right, so here's the deal. I'm 7 questions in right now, all right? We're getting down to the, to crunch time. All right, this is the witching hour. Shout out NFL Red Zone. I'm going to call my own father for the phone a friend option, Justin Conant. Let's see what he can do for me. So let's give him a ring. Let's hope he answers.
What's up, Griff?
Dad, what is going on? You're on the Showcase Sports Show. I'm phoning a friend right now, and I need your help.
Wow, this is what I'm talking about.
That's right. Do you have the time to play this game with us?
Dude, I am all in. I'm going to use, I got a big brain. Let's
Okay,
go.
good. That's
All
why
in.
I called you. So
Justin, it's Elijah here. No Google. You got to remember. You got to.
yeah, that's not allowed. So I have like 7 hints right now, and you have to tell me based off those hints. You got to help me out.
Okay, are you going to tell me the hints?
Yes. So he played college football at USC. He was a tight end. All right. He played for the Cleveland Browns and the Miami Dolphins in the NFL. From what years? Did I get a year on that?
Yes, he. Let me pull this up to make sure I'm correct. He played with Cleveland from 2011 to 2014, and then he played in Miami from 2015 to 2016.
But he did play at USC. He wore jersey number 84, right?
Correct.
And he
Is
made
from Colorado or something?
I don't know. He played at USC, so
No.
Wait a minute. Tight end? Are those all the clues?
That's it. That's all you got. Yep.
pretty much. And he was a Pro Bowler in 2013.
All I can think of is that Winslow character, and Winslow went to Miami.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure he's in jail now. So,
Yeah,
but I don't think that's the right answer.
Hey, are we live on the air right now?
Right
Oh
now,
yes,
yeah.
yes you are.
Hi, Mom. Okay.
Shout out to my grandmother, ladies and gentlemen.
Dang it. Okay, let's see. Tight end went to USC.
Okay.
Oh man, I get called on a podcast and I don't know the answer.
That's
It's
brutal.
Unbelievable.
That's brutal. All right, Dad. So based off those hints, does anybody come to mind?
Well, there was an exceptional tight end. I remember he was from Southern California. Where did he go to? I think he played high school football in Southern California.
Did he?
He did go to USC. And the reason I remember, because I remember, Michael Jordan and then Jordan. I'm going to go Jordan Cameron.
Okay. So we went from Michael Jordan to Jordan Cameron. Is that a final answer?
I'm going Jordan Cameron.
Okay. Jordan Cameron, final answer. Okay.
Is that your guess?
I think that's going to be my final answer as well because he played for the Browns around that time. Okay. I think that's what I'm going to do, committee. Final answer, Jordan Cameron. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes! Oh, wow.
I got it.
Well, Dad, you really came in clutch
Dude,
for me
that
this
was
week.
That's a deep dive. Okay.
That was.
Great. Hey, thanks, guys. Well, have a
Hey.
great rest of your show.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Dad. Really appreciate it.
You bet. I want to make sure I'm here for you. All right. Have a great rest of your show.
All right. Goodbye.
All right. See you. Bye.
Well, there you have it. That was my own father, Justin Conant, coming in clutch for me, trying to get me a third win here in just as many tries. So
Ridiculous.
But here's the deal. So I got that in 7 questions. It is now your turn to guess my player, either in 7 questions or less. You also do have that phone a friend, but the pressure's on right now.
All right, well, let's start it off.
All righty. So my player happens to come from the diamond this week. Going back to baseball.
Okay, all right. So what position did he play?
So my individual happened to play right field. He was a right fielder.
Okay, question number 2. What team or teams?
The bulk of his career, he played for the Milwaukee Brewers from 2004 to 2012. But then after that, he also played for the Mariners from in 2014 and the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2015.
Okay, interesting. Okay, question 3. Was he ever an all-star?
Yeah, in fact, he was. I'm glad you asked. He was an all-star from 2008, and then he also made an appearance in the all-star game in 2010. So 2008 and 2010, 2-time all-star.
Okay, Griff, question 4. Where did this guy hit in the lineup?
Okay, so he kind of hit everywhere.
Well, that's great.
He was mostly like a middle of the lineup kind of guy, just because he was kind of managed a lot of RBI like opportunities where he was kind of hitting, if that makes sense. So he was usually like a 2 through 5 kind of guy. He was never like an end of the lineup kind of guy.
Okay, so he's never hitting 7 or 8.
No.
Okay, 2 through 5. All right, question number 5. Was he more of a contact hitter or a power hitter?
He was kind of a mixture of both. He had a 270 batting average. Actually had 162 home runs in his career. So he wasn't like a guy who struck out all the time, but he had decent pop.
All right, question 6. What number did he wear?
So he wore number 1, actually. He was number 1.
All right, I think I'm going to use my phone a friend.
Okay.
So, Griff, for my phone a friend, I'm going to throw a little curveball at you, okay?
Uh-oh.
You just called your father, right?
Okay.
Well, now I'm going to call your cousin or bring on another family member of yours.
My father's nephew. You're trying to get a little magic dust here.
Yep, his name
through
is
the family.
Reed. He's a future host of a podcast for Showcase.
Okay.
Hopefully coming in the next few weeks. We'll see about that. Anyway, let's give him a jingle.
Let's see what he can do.
Hello.
Reed, it's Elijah. I got a question for you.
Hey, Reed.
You got what's up?
You're on the Showcase Sports Show right now, and we're playing Blast from the Past, and Griffin has a baseball player that I need to guess, and I'm on my last question here, so I need your advice here, okay?
Alrighty.
So this guy is a right fielder, number 1. He played for the Brewers primarily from 2004 to 2012. Then he didn't play in 2013. Then in 2014 played for the Pirates. 2015 the Mariners. He's a top of the order dude, somewhere from like 2 to 5 in the order. He was an all-star 2 different years, 2008 and 2010.
Thames? No, it's not Thames.
Nope, not
Primarily
Thames.
for the Brewers.
Yep, he played from
It's
the...
not Niger. Wait, he played for the Mariners in 2015.
Yes,
And who before them? The Pirates?
the Pirates in 14.
I believe in you, even though I'm rooting
See,
against you.
A lefty or a righty?
Oh, shoot. I don't know, and I don't have any more questions.
2 through 5 in the order.
Yeah, and he's
So-
number 1.
So he was a good player for the Brewers.
He had
for a long time.
162 career home runs. All right, Reed, that's all I got for hints, man. What you got anything for me?
Yes, dude. I'm picturing right-handed dude, probably like hit 5th in the Brewers order. Blonde hair, or like dirty blonde hair, blondish beard. Number 1, right fielder, tall. I want to say his first name's Corey, but I have no clue what his last name is.
All right.
Oh, man.
I know I'm so close, but that's all I got.
All right, well,
I will say you're on the right track.
Oh, no.
Dude, Corey something. It's Corey. That's all I got. I know his first name's Corey. That's it.
All right, well, anyway. All right, well, thanks for your help. I'll let you know who it ends up being, so.
I think I'm going to look him up, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Reed, well,
problem.
thanks for the help.
Love you, buddy.
We'll talk to you later.
It's been real.
Yeah, fellas.
Well, there it is. I have absolutely no idea.
Now, this is kind of similar to last week with the Melvin Mora thing, because you
Yeah.
were right on it. You just could not come up with a name. We're in a similar situation once again this week,
Yep.
folks.
I agree. All right, well,
What do you
go ahead.
think?
Go ahead and I don't know. I can't win right now, so I have one more question. All right, question 7, I guess. So this is I can only tie now. I
This
cannot
is
win.
2 tie, yes.
Is he a righty or a lefty?
He was a right-handed hitter, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it the guy Reed is thinking of?
You know it is. I think it is.
Oh my
I think it
gosh.
is. He is onto it. He just cannot. You guys can't put the pieces together. You're so close.
Oh my gosh.
I want to see you guys succeed. I really
know
do.
it's going to irritate me as soon as I hear it. Let's hear it. Who is it?
All right.
I'm giving
so
up.
you're giving up. Final answer?
Yep, giving up.
All right. So the player I am talking about is none other than right fielder number 1,
Oh no.
Corey Hart
Oh,
from the Milwaukee Brewers.
son of a... And that's going to do it. I'm now 0-3 in Blast from the Past games.
You know,
that's just
dude,
brutal.
you gave it a good effort, man. I'm proud of you. You were thinking of the guy.
That's not what I want to hear. Is a good effort.
I think that's back-to-back weeks. You knew the guy. The name just couldn't get there all the way. You were missing a few pieces.
I think I'm gonna have to start doing some research, studying up on weird rosters from the past.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I would do it. Do it. I'd suggest it. Well, let's head over to the hardwood now. Let's talk some Game 7s. Big Game 6 here between the Jazz and the Nuggets. Jamal Murray dropping 50 points to force that Game 7. Jamal Murray is now just the 4th player to score 50 points in multiple games in a series. Pretty crazy. He joins Allen Iverson, Michael Jordan, and Donovan Mitchell at that list. Putting the Nuggets back into this series. About a week ago, we were really counting the Nuggets out, E. What do you think? Game 7 now is on Tuesday, the 1st, that is, September 1st. Do you think the Nuggets can win Game 7 based off how they've been playing the last 2 games?
Absolutely. I think they're the favorites going into Game 7 after rebounding from going down 3-1. That was pretty incredible. They really blew it, and especially Games 1 and 2, getting absolutely blown out. And Donovan Mitchell just ruining them. And now
Jamal Murray's returning the favor, it seems like.
He is. Jamal Murray is bouncing back and catching fire at the best time he possibly could. But let's definitely not forget about Spida Mitchell. He is unbelievable. Him and Murray were really going at it in Game 6. What a show that was. Both Mitchell and Jamal Murray are playing with a lot of emotion right now. After the game, Jamal Murray had a post-game interview, and he was talking about the racial injustice going on and how that really impacted his game. So maybe you can give that to account for his multiple 50-point games, or whatever the case may be. Mitchell is also balling out and showing emotion. After the game, he was spotted going into the tunnel, slamming a chair after that crushing Game 6 loss to the Nuggets. Pretty interesting. That's been quite a battle to watch between Mitchell and Murray.
Well, yeah, Jamal Murray's been utterly unstoppable pretty much the last 3 games. He dropped 50 points in Game 4, another 42 in Game 5, and then 50 again in Game 6. He is single-handedly putting this team on his back. If Jamal Murray can keep playing like this for the Nuggets could make a deep run in this postseason. Not to mention the Nuggets defense has been stepping up on the defensive side of the ball. Jazz also not hitting as many shots as they once were.
Man, they were hot, dude, right at the beginning of the...
Yep. So, of course, there were a few open threes that the Jazz took in Game 6, but they're not falling as much, you know. Of course, Donovan Mitchell, I think, had 9 threes in Game 6. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't seem like he's slowing down at all, if any. But the Nuggets, there's definitely some optimism for the Nuggets right now going into Game 7.
Well, absolutely, because if the Jazz find a way to slow Murray down, then you just have Jokic step up. If you slow Mitchell down, who are the Jazz going to have step up? You know, Gobert's already playing the absolute peak performance. Like, he'll never play better than he is right now. He's just not much of an offensive threat. Other than offensive rebounding right now, he's dominating the Nuggets. He's absolutely cleaning the boards. But his defensive presence is just there, and he is leaving his mark on the series. He's really taken away a lot of Jokic's underneath presence down there, and he's really making Jokic step out to the perimeter and shoot the ball, which has been a blessing and a curse for the Nuggets. You saw him, and I believe it was Game 5. Jokic was absolutely popping off in the first half. I believe he had around, 25 points, Griff?
Yeah, I think he scored 25, all of his 25 points in the first quarter. He was perfect from the field.
Yep, it was quite a performance from the perimeter. But yeah, that's just what Gobert's making Jokic do, is he's making him step out and beat him from deep instead of on the inside.
And let's be real, I think Gobert, that's the reason he's out there on the floor, right? Is just for defensive purposes. I mean, I don't think the Jazz are really counting on Gobert to really fill up the stat sheet when it comes to points.
Exactly.
But he will be that guy, of course. He's the 2-time defensive player of the year, but he'll be that guy to pick up some offensive rebounds and get some putbacks in, and then also on the defensive end, just really dominate the rebounding side of the game. All right, so let's talk some second-round matchups here in the NBA playoffs. Of course, we still got the Nuggets and Jazz battling it out, as well as the Thunder and Rockets, but we do have a few matchups here in the second round that we can kind of look at. And with the Bucks and the Heat over there in the second round here in this first matchup, both teams have title aspirations. I think both teams think they have the talent to win the whole thing. What do you kind of see over there? Can the Heat kind of make a run at the Bucks and maybe even beat them this series?
You know me, Griff. I'm a big Heat guy. I'm definitely a believer in this team right now, especially the way that they handled the Pacers. I really think that they're going to go in and give the Bucks hell and possibly even take the series. I'm actually going to call the Heat in 7.
Wow. Okay, so you have them in 7 games. I know you're, of course, like you said, really high on the Heat. Of course, sweeping the Pacers in 4 games, which was kind of crazy. But I do like both of these teams a lot, but I'm going to give the slight edge to the Bucks. I think they're just a little more talented than the Heat, and I think they're just a little more primed to make that deep playoff run. However, though, we got some interesting matchups, though, of course, with Bam Adebayo versus Giannis. Get this, so Adebayo is actually one of 2 players this season to average at least 15 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, and 1 steal. The other is Giannis. So this is an interesting matchup, I think, especially when it comes to these bigs. I think the bigs of the Bucks and the Heat are really going to determine the trajectory of the playoffs.
That's really interesting that you bring up the bigs battle over there, because I was thinking about almost the exact opposite, a battle of the wings. I really like Chris Middleton with the Bucks, but I think he's going to be my X factor for this series. I think if he's able to, score from the perimeter and hit those mid-range shots, being guarded by Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, these guys, if they're able to hold him in check, that's the key for the Heat to be able to win the series.
Look, I think the only reason that the Heat don't win this series is just because of Giannis. I think the NBA comes down to superstar players making huge plays during crunch time. And I think Giannis is capable of doing that. It's the NBA. You need guys like that to come in clutch. And I don't think Jimmy Butler's capable of doing that, quite honestly. I think Giannis, of course, the NBA MVP this year, I think he's going to lead the Bucks over the Heat in 7 games. It'll be a close series, but I have the Bucks in 7 games. How about another intriguing matchup in the East between the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics? Who do you like in this series?
Just like the Heat in the Bucks series, I think this is going to be a series based solely off of wing play. Guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Pascal Siakam. That's going to be really huge to see kind of who shines and who takes that role to win the series.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there have been an abundant amount of players so far in this NBA bubble that are all-stars per se, but they've been playing like MVP caliber players. You got Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, now Jason Tatum. He is now the youngest Boston Celtic to ever score 30-plus points in consecutive playoff games. So, think about that. Youngest Boston Celtic, younger than Larry Bird. So there are players right now, especially younger players in the NBA, that are just playing lights out. And I think this is one of those series that has those young players, and it should be an exciting one.
Absolutely. I think we're starting to see Tatum's potential kind of unfold before our very eyes. Everyone always has super high hopes for him and really thinks that, the sky's the limit. And I think he's really starting to show that in this series. Very similar to Murray, and they're really starting to step into some big shoes.
And also, of course, Gordon Hayward out with that ankle sprain, going to be important for him to come back for the Celtics to give them a chance in this series.
Absolutely. So, Griff, who do you have?
I'm going to take the Raptors in 6. I really like what the Raptors showcased in that first round. I'm going to go Raptors in 6 over the Boston Celtics.
Interesting. Yeah, I have the Celtics in 6, actually. I really think Jason Tatum is going to push it into overdrive and really continue to put points up on the board.
And as we go to the West, of course, both the semifinal matchups aren't in concrete yet. We're still waiting on the Nuggets-Jazz series and the Rockets-Thunder series. And of course, the Rockets and Thunder, winner of that series, will play the Lakers in the semifinals. But what do you like from these teams, specifically the Rockets and the Thunder? What kind of challenges can the Thunder and Rockets impose to that Lakers squad?
Well, I think the Rockets, it's quite obvious standing there with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's athletic ability is just uncanny. It's top 3 in the league, up there with, Zach LaVine, guys like that. But James Harden is just maybe the best pure scorer in the league, maybe next to Steph Curry. But those are just 2 huge problems right there for the Lakers. The Thunder, on the other hand, that's just a deep team. And Chris Paul is really flourishing right now. He's the obvious leader in that team. The guys around him are really stepping up.
Well, you know how high I've been on the Rockets since we started doing this podcast. I think the Rockets are going to actually win this next game 6 against the Thunder to move on to play the Lakers. And I think they can beat the Lakers. That's how high I am on the Rockets.
Really?
I do.
I think that's a hot take.
Yeah, no, I think with a healthy Russell Westbrook and James Harden doing what he does, I think they can beat that Lakers team. Now, the only issue that I have with that series is going to be the big play of the Rockets, of course. They don't really have any big guys to post up against Dwight Howard, those caliber kind of guys down low for the Lakers. I think if they can get hot, kind of like what Utah's doing in the Denver series right now, why not? I mean, if you hit 23s, that's got a pretty good chance of winning those kind of games when you're shooting like that. So I think if the Rockets can shoot well, they've got a shot.
I totally agree. It's going to be solely based off of the Rockets' offense because I don't think their defense is going to stop them. I think that the Lakers are going to be the clear favorites, and I would take the Lakers in probably 6 games. But I don't know. I see where you're coming from, but yeah, I definitely disagree.
Okay, and real quick, too, about the Thunder, I think this team just really interests the heck out of me. They really do. I think they have a very witty veteran point guard in Chris Paul, who I think is a future Hall of Famer. I think the Thunder... A lot of people are sleeping on the Thunder, I think. I think maybe this team, if they can win in 7 against the Rockets, might be able to make some noise. I don't know. I don't think they have the star power or the athleticism to go up against a team like the Lakers. But we'll see. I don't know. It just kind of depends on what happens in that series.
I agree. And I think my X factor for whichever team wins, I think is going to end up being Anthony Davis. You know, obviously, if he can dominate against the small ball Rockets, that will be huge, and that'll just be the series right there. But with the Thunder, I think it's going to be really interesting to see him go up against guys like Steven Adams in the paint.
All right, let's talk about the lower quadrant here of the Western Conference. Of course, like I said, Utah and the Nuggets still playing. Game 7 will be on Tuesday. That's the first. But the Clippers moving on against the Mavericks, despite, I think the last time we filmed, Luka had that buzzer beater to beat the Clippers in that Game 4 matchup. But wow, the Clippers really disposed of the Mavericks pretty easily the rest of the way. So they are now awaiting the winner of the Jazz-Nuggets series. So they'll be meeting one of them in the semis. Who do you think matches up well for the Clippers?
I think if I'm the Clippers, I would rather play Utah rather than the Nuggets, just because I think Utah has less star power. Obviously, they have Mitchell, who's definitely a superstar right now. But other than that, you know, they have a lot of depth, but no guys that can really match up with Paul George and Kawhi. I think you might be able to take one of those guys away, but you're not going to be able to take both, especially with the presence of Harrell. I think that's going to be really interesting to see him go up against Gobert in the paint. I think if I'm the Clippers, I'd rather see the Jazz. The Nuggets, on the other hand, I think they match up a lot better with the Clippers, so it'll be a lot more of a series, because honestly, I think if the Jazz win, it'll be the Clippers in 5, but if the Nuggets win, I would say it's probably going to be the Clippers in 6 or 7.
Now, I did say a couple weeks back that the Nuggets were going to make the conference finals against the Lakers and eventually lose to the Lakers. But I think the Clippers would rather play the Nuggets.
Really?
I really do think that. I'm not sure if the Nuggets have the defense to
That's true.
Go up against guys like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and even role guys like Marcus Morris, those kind of guys. I'm not sure if the Nuggets necessarily have the depth right now to compete with the Clippers. I guess we'll see if they do end up beating the Jazz on Tuesday. I'm just not sure. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on the Nuggets right now. I think they're a little too inconsistent. If I'm the Clippers, I'm looking at the Jazz as a team that is kind of scary. They have that defense, of course. I think they have a better defense than the Nuggets, and they're also the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league. So I think the Jazz stay in a lot of games by doing that. So I think I would rather play the Nuggets if I'm the Clippers. Now, that doesn't mean that the Nuggets are a bad team or anything. That's just, I think, who the Clippers would rather end up playing.
Absolutely. So do you think the Clippers end up taking the series in both?
I do. I think, yeah, I do. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I'm going to go Clippers-Lakers just because what I've seen in the first round, especially from the Nuggets. I'm going to go Lakers-Clippers in the conference finals, and then I also have the Clippers beating either the Jazz or the Nuggets in 6. So I think it'll be a good series if whoever advances, but I think Clippers in 6.
Let's talk some NHL, Griff. Playoffs are underway. We're in the second round. In all series right now, before we're recording, because the Avalanche play tonight, all series are at 3-1. All 4 teams, the Canucks, the Flyers, the Bruins, and the Avalanche. They're all down 3-1.
All elimination games.
Yep, they're all on the brink of elimination. Again, the Avalanche play tonight. We are recording on Monday, which is the 31st. Griff, out of any of these series, do you see any of them going longer than 5 games?
You know, I do. I really do like the Avalanche Stars series still. I think that series score is a lot closer than it actually is. Because I think the Avs, they're out shooting the Stars. They're just not getting that goaltending right now.
Right,
and,
I totally
and that's
agree.
been the frustrating thing with the Avs. So I think if they can just get a little better goaltending play, I think they can make this a series, honestly. I really do.
I'm right there with you. I think the Avalanche are a much better team. Then again, the Stars really match up well with the Avs. Obviously, during the regular season, the Stars actually did not lose to the Avalanche.
Swept them in the series,
right.
I believe.
Yep, so their first loss was in this playoff series against the Avalanche. So, yeah, I definitely think the Avs still have a shot. Another series that I really like, going longer than 5 games, I don't think they'll win. I really think that the Flyers are going to steal another one from the Islanders.
I agree.
I know the Islanders are on fire right now, especially with Semyon Varlamov between the pipes. He is absolutely balling out right now. I think he's going to continue to do so. Like I said, I think the Flyers steal one more, but I eventually think the Islanders finish it off in 6.
Yeah, another series that's interesting to say the least. Tampa Bay's got a 3-1 series lead on the Bruins. The Bruins just have been totally outplayed in this series. They're getting no offensive production whatsoever. I do think the Bruins will steal a game before the Lightning eliminate them. But I do have the Lightning. I've been banging the Lightning drum since the beginning of the playoffs. And they're backing me up right now. They're playing well. I just think the Bruins might steal another one, like I said. It's currently 1-1, game 5 right now in the second period. So the Bruins fighting for their playoff lives right now.
I think it was a huge loss for the Bruins when they lost Tuukka Rask when he opted out. I know the offensive production has been really stalling right now for Boston, but I just think losing that leader and that guy, but playing goalie, that's huge. He's an all-star.
No, I agree. I mean, just look at game 3. I mean, the Lightning scored 7 goals. I mean, that's just unacceptable in a playoff series. So I think the Bruins got to get better at the goaltending position as well, just like the Avs.
Let's head over to the Diamond. On today's episode, we have a special guest, Matt Gregory, host of the Small Ball Podcast. Matt, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm living the dream. Happy to be on. Today was a trade deadline. It was huge. Let's get right into it.
Absolutely. What was your favorite trade that happened today?
Definitely the 7-player blockbuster trade for Mike Clevenger between the Indians and the Padres. Once again, we see the Cleveland Indians don't take crap from their players. Clevenger acted out, was dumb, and they got rid of him just like they did with Bauer at last deadline. No surprises here for me.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I think the Clevenger thing with going out to the clubs with Plesac, that was not a great move for him, especially with his looming contract extension. So I think it was kind of inevitable for him to end up moving on. But wow, they got quite a haul in return.
Yeah, also to add on top of that, the fact that Clevenger lied and let Plesac take all the blame initially, that's just an awful look from a leader in an organization.
I 100% agree. That's something you just can't do.
Well, Matt, I must say, it is nice having you on the Showcase Sports Show. I've got a question for you here, and it has to do with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Of course, they kind of just let everybody go today. I think they're just kind of in rebuild mode at this point. They sent Archie Bradley, their closer, to the Reds. Parted ways with Starling Marte. All these kind of big names that they kind of acquired in the offseason. Have they kind of given up on that, Matt? What's kind of the Arizona Diamondbacks viewpoint right now?
Yeah, it's an understatement to say the Diamondbacks have been a disappointment this year. Trading away Robbie Ray, Archie Bradley, Starling Marte. They broke up the Marte Parte. Kind of hurts my heart. But trading those guys away means that this year's not what they're looking forward to. They already have a top farm system. They got a lot of guys coming up in the next couple years. They're just looking to build that up. They're looking forward to the future.
Going back to the Padres too, Matt, I think they acquired 7 guys today during the MLB trade deadline. Does this put them on the same playing field as the Dodgers?
I mean, they acquired 7 guys, only traded one of their top 10 prospects in Taylor Trammell. Fantastic trade deadline, acquiring Clevenger, absolutely elite pitcher. I wouldn't say it puts them on the same level as the Dodgers. I say it puts them about even with the Twins and the Rays, about the second category of teams.
And it definitely puts them above the Rockies, right? Just for the record.
Yeah, they were already above the Rockies. Sorry,
okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure
Hey,
that we're on the same
no
page.
Rockies slander.
Yeah, that wasn't very nice to the Rockies.
Homers.
Hold on. You want to talk about homers. Matt Gregory, you're literally sitting here wearing a Chicago Cubs jersey.
Javi Baez, right? Was that a yes, Matt? I don't think the mic picked that up.
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, so just to be clear, he is wearing a Javi Baez jersey.
And I'm wearing 2 chains, just like Javi.
Not 1 chain, the 2 chains today. It's a special day for Matt.
2 chains.
Just like Javi. Okay. All right, speaking about Cubs baseball, okay, they made some moves at the deadline. They acquired Jose Martinez. What are your thoughts about that?
So he's a guy that I used to watch crush the Cubs when he was with the Cardinals last year. Got traded for Matthew Liberatore, a top 100 prospect, and then got dealt to the Cubs for virtually nothing. That'll tell you about how Jose Martinez is hitting this year.
So you're not very encouraged, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's safe to say I'm not encouraged by this move. Jose Martinez is known for crushing lefties, and this season he's actually been below league average against lefties. So it's nothing to look too much into right now. He's a Walmart Nick Castellanos. But in Theo, I trust, so hopefully this was a good move.
All right, so that's how you feel about Martinez. What about the other 3 acquisitions?
Yeah, so the Cubs brought in center fielder Cameron Maybin from the Tigers. I mean, it's an all right pickup. I don't really expect him to be much better than Albert Almora, who thankfully got sent to South Bend. See you later, kid. You can't hit water if you were in a boat. Then the 2 other guys, we got Andrew Chafin from the Diamondbacks, having an awful year, but his lefty numbers are normally good. But that really doesn't matter this year because there's a 3-batter minimum, so I don't really know how I feel about that pickup either.
He's pretty decent with the Diamondbacks, I'd say. I mean, he had a couple good years.
Yeah, he's hovering around a 7 ERA right now. I'm not too excited about him. Then the Cubs also picked up a guy from the Red Sox, Josh Osich, another guy with a 5+ ERA. Not really looking too much into him either. He's another guy that's good against lefties, but 3-batter minimum, you need versatile pitchers at this time.
So is that kind of a trend with the Cubs, is needing that lefty, that lefty presence?
Yeah, actually, in our bullpen, we only have one lefty, Kyle Ryan. He has like a 6.5 ERA. Kind of Rocky-like ERA right there for a bullpen arm.
Yeah, no kidding.
Of the 4 guys the Cubs picked up, they picked up negative .3 WAR. Once again, I trust Theo, but at this point, these moves don't look like they make much sense.
So, Matt, for our listeners out there that are not sure of what WAR is, go ahead and explain it to them.
Yeah, so WAR is wins above replacement. And what that stat takes into account is how a guy hits and plays defense and runs the bases. So say Elijah's a league average player. His WAR would be 0.00, and that would mean he's like any guy you could call up from the minor leagues, any Joe Schmo. But if you look at a guy like Mike Trout, his wins above replacement is normally around 9 in a 162-game season. That means he wins his team 9 more games than any average player. That's absolutely insane, considering he's just one of 9 players on the field.
Wow.
No kidding. That's a very intriguing stat. So I guess for me, the most shocking part of the deadline wasn't, who got traded. It was who didn't get traded. Lance Lynn. I really thought he was good as gone for the Rangers, but he ended up staying down in Texas. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, the Texas Rangers look to be shopping their whole roster at the deadline, similar to what the Diamondbacks were doing. Lance Lynn in conversation for the AL Cy Young award right now. Kind of surprising to see a guy in contention for Cy Young on the trade market, but the Rangers are not going anywhere. They're 12-21 at this point. Seeing Lance Lynn not moved is kind of rough because the same thing happened last year. They had Mike Minor. They had him on the trade block. He was having a great year. They chose not to trade him. Traded him this deadline for practically nothing. So if I'm the Rangers, I'm kind of scared, hoping Lance Lynn bounces back and has a great year because even next year, he really won't be worth that much on the end of his contract.
I agree. I totally think this is just the top of his, trade value. It's right now. It probably cannot get better than it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Lynn's a guy who's been pitching just absurdly this year. I don't know how
he's
else to
been
put
phenomenal.
it. He's been great. Probably the best he's pitched all of his career. So is he a kind of guy that the Rangers are trying to keep long term? Or maybe next year, is he kind of like a guy who maybe gets dealt at the trade deadline?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Lynn is getting up there in age, and the Rangers aren't going to be a good team in the next 2 or 3 years. So honestly, they should trade him as soon as they can, get the maximum value they can for him, because he is getting up there in age, and especially in this year when the season's such a sprint, everyone wants to make a move to win now. It's really hard to see that they didn't trade him this year, but Lynn won't be with them in the future.
So one last question for you, Matt, about the deadline. Were there any teams that bought or sold that you were kind of surprised about?
Yeah, honestly, the most confusing team in the whole deadline was the Miami Marlins. They're sitting at 14-15 right now. Below average team, performing above expectations at this point. And what they did was make moves that don't really describe what kind of team they are at this point. They traded Jonathan VR to the Blue Jays, but they went out and they acquired Starling Marte from the Diamondbacks. A move that doesn't really make sense if they're getting rid of VR, one of their best hitters. So yeah, they're the team that really surprised me the most. Another team is the Chicago White Sox, a team that's kind of like the Padres, an exciting young team. And they went out and they made no moves. I think they got Gerard Dyson from the Pirates for cash considerations, but that's not really a move.
I think that's surprising, Matt, honestly, that the White Sox didn't make a move because in this shortened season, why wouldn't they make a move? I mean, you're seeing the Marlins, like you said, making moves. And they realize that it's a shortened season and then they make the playoffs, I like how you brought up how the White Sox didn't really make any moves. I thought you got to be disappointed if you're a White Sox fan.
Yeah, and people are upset that the Dodgers didn't make any moves, but they're the LA freaking Dodgers.
Yeah,
they're already set.
Exactly.
They've already made the moves.
They have the highest run differential in baseball right now. They're, I think, 30 plus runs ahead of the rest of the league. They're just getting guys back. Mookie Betts is finally hitting well. Cody Bellinger's warming up. There's nothing to worry about with the Dodgers. Any trade at that point would be not worth it.
One last question here for you, Matt, before you go. I want to get your take here on the Brodie Van Wagenen ordeal over there in New York. For our viewers who don't know what's going on there, Brodie Van Wagenen was caught in a hot mic incident talking about, who else, guys? The MLB commissioner, Rob Manfred, our favorite person in the world, obviously. He was caught on hot mic, Brodie Van Wagenen, pretty much questioning the leadership of Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball. And I think it's just that much bigger of a deal because he was caught publicly saying it. Matt, what are your thoughts here? I've heard you behind the scenes talk about Rob Manfred. The words are not pretty. But what would you like to say?
Yeah, anyone with half a brain knows Manfred's not a good leader. Wagner came out, said what needed to be said. Trevor Bauer's been saying it forever. Rob Manfred is a buffoon. The other thing you got to bring up is this is the second time in 2 weeks that somebody's been caught on a hot mic in baseball.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah, they gotta pick it up.
Yeah, they need some new equipment or something.
Exactly. You look at the things Manfred is actually worried about. Trying to cancel, like I said, Trevor Bauer's behind-the-scenes YouTube videos where he goes into the clubhouse and just shows us a new side of players and promotes the game. But Manfred's more worried about blacking that out and blacking out games in local markets. If you're paying for MLB TV,
it's messed up,
you
man.
should get your team's games if you don't have cable. Rob Manfred, if you're hearing this, you're an idiot and you're stupid.
Yeah, I think that's a joke. Real quick, as a customer of MLB TV, that's very frustrating.
So going back to what you were saying about Trevor Bauer and the whole YouTube and vlog thing that he's kind of outlawing, I think that plays right into what I spoke about a couple episodes ago about how Mike Trout, is kind of lame in the fact that he doesn't really promote the game of baseball too well. Trevor Bauer is trying to do this, and he's doing it. Trevor Bauer he's an above average pitcher. He's having an amazing year this year, but prior to this, he's never been, an elite pitcher, and he's now more of a celebrity than Mike Trout is. And the fact that Manfred wants to knock that down and just, turn off his vlogs, that's not okay. That guy is literally bringing awareness to your game to make you money for the league that you are the commissioner of, and you want to shut it down? That's just ridiculous. Another Manfred mess up.
Yeah, and you look into the NBA and what makes them so successful is they market the players.
Right. They're all celebrities.
Yeah,
right.
The players have so much power in basketball, maybe too much.
I agree with you there, Matt. I do. And not just that player power in the NBA, but all of sports. I mean, you saw all of the professional sports taking that day off and postponing those games. So I think you're right about that.
Well, and going to that, there was quite a fiasco that led the Mets GM to these comments about his leadership. Supposedly, Manfred was trying to get the players to only sit out for 1 hour. So essentially, instead of canceling all the games for these protests, he wanted them just to, essentially delay the game for 1 hour. I think that's so irresponsible and insensitive of, what is going on right now in sports. And I think it's important to let the players have that spotlight and use their platform in the right way. And, I just think by Manfred doing this, he's not allowing that. He's literally just saturating it with his own opinion and trying to force himself on the game. And that's just something that you don't see like Adam Silver do. That's why he's a much better commissioner than Manfred.
Yeah, I completely get that.
Well, Matt, thanks for coming on to the show. What's a way our listeners can hear more from you?
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. You can find me on Showcase Sports Media's website. If you go under podcast, you'll see the Small Ball Podcast there. Click the link. Check us out. You can also find my writing on Showcase's website. I'm always writing about baseball. So be sure to check me out. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys have a great one.
All right, well, let's talk some NFL football here. And what better way to do it than welcoming our second guest of the show? He is a fantasy football and football expert for us, Isaac Goold. Thanks for coming on the show, Isaac.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm really excited to be here. I just spent the last 2 hours combing through my old football card collection.
Wow.
So I'm ready to talk some football. And I must have bought a pack a few years ago because I ended up pulling out a Patrick Mahomes rookie card.
Is
out
that
of the
so?
bunch.
So were you finding some gems in there?
I found
in your
some
old collection?
gems. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So I put that in the casing immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just extra excited now. So.
Well, that's got to be worth some money at least. That's got to be a little
Eventually.
valuable.
Eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get down to it here. How about Alvin Kamara and his contract dispute? He's been holding out, guys. What's going on there in New Orleans?
I mean, it sounds similar to Dalvin Cook. The CBA this year makes it that holding out is just not a good idea for these players. They're going to lose a ton of money. I heard somewhere that it's around $50,000 a day.
Is it?
If they're
Wow.
holding
Wow.
out. That could be
It's a lot
per
of
game.
money.
I'd have to fact check that. But it's a lot of money. So it would make sense for him to, in my opinion, to go to camp and just play like the Alvin Kamara that he is. Just a similar situation to Dalvin Cook.
I definitely agree. Draws a lot of comparisons to the Cook situation. Eventually, do you think he ends up staying in New Orleans?
I mean, if he can get a deal done, it makes the most sense. There's no one behind him. That's a big part of their offense. He's a great receiving back, which is a big part of their offense. So I would say so, yeah.
I agree. I think he does stay put just because of the reasons you listed. I think he's just that valuable to the New Orleans offense. He's just, the way he catches the ball as a receiving back, the way he rushes the ball, I think he's just one of those guys that the Saints need to have, especially in their offense.
Yeah, he's a workhorse, man.
I agree with you guys too, to a certain extent. At the same time, I think with how good the Saints are at drafting and how crafty Sean Payton is, I think that he could move on from him if he's demanding too high of a price tag, which is obviously kind of what's going on right now. You know, they're not on the same level. So I think if that continues to happen, I could definitely see the rift growing bigger and Kamara ends up leaving New Orleans in this offseason. And then, you know, they'll have to look to the draft or free agency, you know, go after someone new.
And you know, I think just in today's NFL, just in that running back position, it is the position is just, it's become kind of a plug-in kind of position in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
I mean, if you have a good system under your offense, you can just plug in a guy and get value out of him. Well, and I think that's why you see a lot of these guys like Le'Veon Bell, Alvin Kamara, maybe holding out and having these contract disputes, because I think the NFL and its teams are starting to realize that maybe the running back position isn't as valuable as it once was. You can find these other guys in different ways.
I totally agree. I would say there's probably 5 backs in the league, you know, give or take a couple, that are really franchise-changing running backs. But other than that, I think they're all interchangeable. You know, I mean, obviously, I'd put Kamara in there, but you have Saquon, Zeke, McCaffrey. These guys are the ones that, you know, you pay the farm for. But, you know, these other guys, I think they're replaceable. I really do, because especially running backs don't last a long time. So they're, you know, trying to get the bag now and get paid and get it before something happens to them. But I think you're totally right. And I think especially in a place like New Orleans, you know, where they're so good at that, like I said, I think he's replaceable. Definitely. I think that's kind of a hot take, but I think it's true.
Coming from Alvin's perspective, though, running backs have the shortest shelf life.
Oh, I get it 100%.
At any position, so I definitely understand why these guys...
He wants his money.
Want to lock in a deal.
I totally get that 100%. Yeah, that's totally accurate.
I don't think that there's enough information yet to really affect his fantasy value. However, he's still an early first-round pick, and I think it's going to stay that way until we find out that he's choosing not to play.
Yep, I totally agree. Speaking about running backs, today is Monday, the 31st. Leonard Fournette was actually cut today.
Huge news.
You know, that's big news out of Jacksonville. Where do you see him landing?
That's a good question. I have a few places where I could see Fournette kind of landing. Of course, I could totally see him land in New England.
I totally agree.
With Bill Belichick and Cam Newton over there. I think he could be a nice fit. Also kind of be on the lookout for a team like Washington, who has an old running back in AP. He's 35 now. And then they just released a guy, Darius Geis. He's facing domestic violence charges. So they're a little thin in the running back position up there in Washington. So look for a team like that to kind of add a Leonard Fournette
Don't
to the
forget
squad.
about Antonio Gibson over there.
Yep.
As well as Peyton Barber. So they do have a full room, but that is definitely a good landing spot.
Yep.
I have 3 teams that I really like him going to, actually. The first 2 are kind of more gimmies than the last one. I think my number 1 choice, though, is the LA Rams. I think he'd fit in perfectly there. Obviously, they lost Todd Gurley going to Atlanta, and now they just have Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. So I think he'd be a great addition to that backfield. But not only there, that's not the only California team I like him going to. I like him going to San Francisco, actually. I think he'd be a good kind of change of pace with Raheem Mostert. And, you know, because I really don't think Fournette is a bell cow anymore. So seeing him, I think he would flourish in more of a 2-back system. So I think that'd be a good spot. But my most intriguing place, again, is another 2-back system. It's in Carolina with Christian McCaffrey. I really like that. You know, early in McCaffrey's career, they had Jonathan Stewart and then C.J. Anderson to kind of help take the load a little bit from McCaffrey, and especially after they just inked him to another 4-year deal. I think it's important to get him some help over there so he doesn't have to take all the carries, especially because he's such a premier pass catcher in today's game. You know, they line him up in the slot, in the backfield, they kind of line him up everywhere. So I think Fournette would be a great fit in Carolina.
Yeah, for me, I can really just see him going to the Dolphins. I mean, their running back room right now is Jordan Howard, Matt Breida, and Patrick Laird. I would just have so much more confidence.
It's very subpar.
In their, very subpar. I'd have a lot more confidence in their offense if they had Fournette paired with Jordan Howard in that backfield. I would just like that a whole lot more.
So, Isaac, you're from Minnesota. Okay, I know you grew up watching Vikings football. They made a big move today. They went out and got Yannick Ngakoue. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh man, I'm so excited. We got him for a steal. We got him for a second round next year, 2021, and then a fifth round in 2022, which could turn into a third rounder. I'm happy to pay that price. He's 25 years old. He's an elite defensive end in my opinion, and paired with Daniil Hunter, I'm super excited about our pass rush off the edge.
So do you see him staying there long term, or is this just kind of a one-year deal type thing?
The Vikings came out saying they want to secure him in the long term. You know, we obviously got to start with a one-year deal. You know, if I'm them, I want to lock that guy up for as long as possible, especially with the loss of Everson Griffin over to Dallas.
Yeah, and I know last free agency, the Vikings were in quite a pickle with their cap space. Has that gotten resolved at all, or is it still pretty strict right now?
You know, we don't have any room at all, so it looks like we got to do some restructuring. Reef is the primary candidate to either take a pay cut or get cut, honestly. So another guy that we could extend is Adam Thielen. We could extend Anthony Harris to get that room. So, you know, we'll see what we do.
Well, with the NFL season kicking off here in just a couple weeks, let's talk fantasy football. I know we haven't really talked fantasy football much on the show, but with Isaac as a guest today, let's talk some fantasy football. Isaac, how about you start us off? Who are a few guys that you like as some sleepers for this season?
So yeah, a question that always comes up is who's going to be that guy that jumps into the top 10 who wasn't previously? Someone like Chris Godwin last year. My answer is Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got Matt Ryan throwing him the ball, who's consistently 4,500 to 5,000 yards per year. He's just a yards machine. Calvin Ridley's young. He's a great route runner. He's right next to Julio Jones, who, you know, is still obviously one of the best in the league, but he is getting older. I'm all behind Calvin Ridley this year. You can get him around 4th, 5th, 6th round, depending on, you know, who's in your league. I think he's a great value pick this year.
So now, going off that, do you think that hurts Julio Jones's fantasy stock?
No, not at all. I think there's plenty of targets to go around. Hayden Hurst is a new guy in that offense. I think he's just going to pick up Hooper's targets, and then Calvin Ridley will just take a step forward.
So a guy I really love from Tennessee is Jonnu Smith, the tight end. He is so athletic, man, and he's got game-changing, just pretty much athleticism. He can run, he can jump, he can run routes, he can catch, he can do pretty much everything. So he's definitely a vertical threat down there in Tennessee. I think he's going to be Tannehill's new best friend. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, yeah, I think he's a guy you could pick up on the wire in a redraft league. He's a great guy to keep your eyes on. If we're talking keeper league, you know, I would say he's definitely a late round guy to mid round guy, depending on how many keepers you have. But yeah, I'm super excited to see this guy play for sure.
Well, one guy I have on my radar, it's Zach Moss, running back for the Buffalo Bills. He's going to be a rookie this year out of the University of Utah, but his college stats are just so hard to ignore. He was the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year last year. Also racked up 4,067 career rushing yards, along with 38 touchdowns on the ground. But also, I think the thing that is very appealing to the eye was his 688 career receiving yards. Fantasy owners and PPR leagues gotta understand that that is a big stat. Zach Moss could be one of those guys that catches a lot of balls out of the backfield.
Yeah, definitely. He's another guy that you're gonna find on the wire in a redraft. I think his stock all depends on, you know, the play of Devin Singletary. Yeah. He was kind of a disappointment last year, but he's got a lot of talent, so I mean, if he comes out and he's going to be the starter, if he comes out, you know, playing like he should be, like he was drafted to be, then it's going to take a lot longer for Zach Moss to get on the field, you know, as a consistent guy.
I just think that's a good fit for Zach Moss. I mean, I think the Bills are a good team. You got Josh Allen, and heck, if I don't think there's a clear, like you said, guy in that backfield. No one's really taken it over yet.
Right.
So Zach Moss could be that guy.
Well, and I like that committee, too, of him and Singletary. I think they complement each other very well.
You like TJ Yeldon in that backfield as well, in that committee?
I don't know.
I do.
You're a big TJ Yeldon guy.
I wouldn't say I'm a big TJ Yeldon guy.
Oh, man.
But
he's going to be a guy that we look back on and we're just like, TJ Yeldon?
Yeah, we'll be like, wow, remember TJ Yeldon? Yeah, that guy.
I don't have very high hopes for Yeldon.
I don't know.
No, it's over with for
I
him,
think he could maybe he's got something left in the tank. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess never rule him out.
Yeah.
All right, my second sleeper here is someone that's 23 in the Fantasy Pros ADP. He's a great guy for your third running back, and he's just kind of forgot about, honestly, in drafts. Talk about someone who's got a lot left in the tank. That's Mr. Mark Ingram from Baltimore.
Okay.
You know, they drafted J.K. Dobbins, who is going to be the future, and I think it's only going to take 1 year for Dobbins to be the starter. I think Ingram will be on a different team. But this year, Dobbins is the starter. You know, I love him as one of those late round guys to be your number 3 or 4 running back on your team. And you actually drafted him. Do you remember what round that was in?
I believe it was in the 8th.
The 8th round. See, that's crazy. And that's just a redraft league. If you can get a guy like Mark Ingram with that production in the 8th round, that could be a league-winning pick. That could definitely help you win your league. So, yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Well, so I think if he's in the 7th round or later, I'd take him. But before that, I get real hesitant because I, myself, really love J.K. Dobbins. You know, I watched him at Ohio State. Man, what an athletic product. You know, I remember as a freshman, I watched him against, I believe it was Michigan, and just being like, who is this dude? He is really, really athletic. You know, he's a smaller guy, but he's just like a pinball. He just bounces off everybody, makes a lot of dudes miss. I really like Dobbins, so that's why it makes me hesitant of Mark Ingram. I mean, he's a good back, no doubt. I don't know. I have to start to think that by the end of, you know, the year, I think Dobbins starts to resume at least probably half the workload, if not a lot. So I'm a little hesitant because I think it's going to turn into more of a committee necessarily than just Ingram or just Dobbins. So a sleeper that I really like this year, I really like Jonnu Smith, my first guy, but this one might top it. N'Keal Harry for the Patriots. He is so raw.
Good pick.
And
That's a great pick.
Yep, he's so raw, and I think he's going to come in healthy. He's kind of a guy that has the athletic ability that Cam Newton loves to throw to, you know, like when Devin Funchess was there. You know, guys like that, he fits that frame. He's a bigger receiver, big body.
Deep threat.
Right, huge deep threat, and that's, you know, Cam Newton loves to rip it. So give him the ball and let him sit in that pocket. I really think that N'Keal Harry is going to break out this year.
I think not only that, but I think N'Keal Harry, coming into last year, if you guys remember, this guy was... I mean, he was getting all the hype. I mean, first-round pick, wasn't he? He was the Patriots' first-round pick.
32nd overall. Yep.
Yeah, so he's only 1 year removed from that. So I think he could definitely, there's a chance that he could really have a bounce-back season with the Pats.
Yeah, a lot of people have already forgot about him.
Definitely. I have no arguments there. I drafted the kid last year as one of my top picks. I was super excited for him. And honestly, this year, I've had a tough time not keeping him in my keeper league. So I'm super excited for what he's going to do this year.
Couldn't agree more. Also, another guy that I really, really love, it's Laviska Shenault, guys. I mean, you guys know I love Laviska Shenault Jr. Wide receiver, Jacksonville, out of the University of Colorado. This is a guy who, when healthy, was one of the best receivers in college football over the last couple of years. If this is a guy that can stay healthy, I think he can provide fantasy owners a lot of value.
You know, when he was at CU, he was the main vocal point of that offense, and he was just getting touches on touches. He was essentially getting as many touches per game as like Christian McCaffrey does for the Panthers. Like, they were overusing him. So I think when he goes to Jacksonville, it loosens that up a little bit. They won't be just directly focusing on him, so that way, you know, he'll stay a little more healthy. You know, I really like that pick too. I think he's more liable to break out next year, more so than this year.
I could see that.
Especially because we're still really not sure on Minshew, whether he's good or not. At times, he looks like a rock star. At times, he looks so replaceable. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Jags do. I personally think they're one of the worst teams in football. So who knows? If they get that number 1 pick, you never know. They could go after Trevor Lawrence and be able to, you know, get him a different quarterback. But I don't know. I think a lot of it hinges on Minshew.
Real quick, I think there's no doubt that he is NFL ready, Laviska Shenault. But like you said, I think it just depends on who's throwing him the football.
Exactly.
Because he is the NFL prototype receiver. I mean, he's got the size, the body, the physicality for it, I think. The speed even. So, yeah, it's going to really determine who's throwing him the football.
Well, and a lot of times you see a lot of receivers go to Jacksonville and they just don't pan out, man. Like, remember, you know, Marquise Lee? That's another Pac-12 guy.
That's right.
And, man, he was supposed to be a rock star down there, and he was buns.
Turns out he had slow feet. That was his problem.
He did.
Not very good feet.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, guys, I like it. Going off that, my third sleeper is DJ Chark.
Ooh,
okay.
Oh, man,
Same
I
team.
love him. 1,008 yards, 8 touchdowns with an average of 13.8 yards per reception as a rookie. I love this kid. I don't think Keenan Cole, Chris Conley, or Shenault in that edition are going to affect his yardage, his touchdowns, or his receptions in any manner, shape, or form. He's a great guy to get late. Keep your eyes on him. He's in redraft. It's like 5th, 6th round you can get the guy. It's ridiculous. Yeah. The running backs that you're getting at that time are just not at his level. So draft your running backs early and find a guy like DJ Chark on the draft board late in the draft.
Do you think so? You'd rather have Chark than Shenault? I think you would put him higher fantasy wise.
Oh, come on, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
coming into the season,
Chenault's going to be in redraft, Chenault's going to be either drafted super, super late, or he's going to be someone you watch on the wire and pick up on your team. In like deeper keeper leagues / dynasty leagues like I'm in, Chenault will go top 3 rounds, maybe in the 4th.
Okay.
But he's definitely a guy that deeper leagues are sinking their teeth into because his talent is outstanding.
I really love DJ Chark too. You know, the guy's 6'4", but he runs like a cheetah, man. He is so quick, a big-bodied dude. I think he needs to bulk up a lot to really push that extra element into his game.
Sure.
If he adds that, he's going to be pretty near unstoppable. Yeah, I really like him down in Jacksonville. But again, I think the Minshew thing kind of plays into it. I think that caps him a little bit, but I definitely think he is the number 1 guy down there.
Staying away from injury, I think he's gonna outperform his rookie year, and that's gonna be great for your fantasy team.
Speaking of another young receiver that I really like to break out this year, Paris Campbell from the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. I really love this pick because now they got Phillip Rivers throwing the ball. Phillip Rivers excels the best when he's throwing to 3 positions. It's either running back to the tight end, you know, obviously with all those years with Antonio Gates and then Hunter Henry, and the slot receivers. And Paris Campbell is the prototypical perfect slot receiver. That guy works in such good short area. He's got great feet. I really like Paris Campbell, and I think Phillip Rivers was kind of the best quarterback that could have been paired with him. So I think he's really going to help him break out.
So do you think that, I mean, how much does T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman take away from Paris Campbell, would you say?
Good question.
Okay, so in a normal situation, I would say a lot, and Paris Campbell would not be on my list. But because Phillip Rivers is dishing the ball now, both those dudes are going to be outside. And, you know, sure. Paris Campbell's going to be running in the slot. And like I said, Rivers loves slot, tight end, and running back. That's why a guy like Nyheim Hines this year, that's a good pick because he's a pass-catching back. The tight ends over there in Indianapolis are going to get some work too. I don't know. I really like him in the slot.
What about a guy like Jonathan Taylor taking away those touches from Campbell? I mean, do you think the Colts kind of go with the run-oriented offense this year? I know they got Phillip Rivers, not coming off his best year, but do you think they ride Taylor and maybe that takes away some of his opportunities?
I'm not really sure. I see it both ways, but I think they're going to run a similar system to what he ran in San Diego, where a lot of it's going to be shotgun runs and quick passes, quick outlets to the flats and to the mid-range and the short-range passes. So I don't know. I really don't think that he's going to end up taking away from Paris Campbell's touches, but who knows? I think Paris Campbell's literally in the perfect situation right now.
Sure.
Last but not least, guys, I got Deontay Johnson, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As we all know, Ben Roethlisberger coming back from injury this year. He had that surgery on his arm. I think this is a very intriguing pick fantasy-wise. I think Deontay Johnson's one of those guys that can really put up 90 catches this year. I really do. I think he's that kind of guy.
Wow.
It depends on what Big Ben's doing at quarterback, of course. But this is a guy last year, he's coming off 59 catches, 680 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. Even those right there aren't terrible numbers, and you would think that he's going to kind of have more of a spotlight this year next to Juju and all those other receivers. What are your guys' kind of thoughts on Deontay Johnson coming into the year?
So I think he'll really complement Juju in the way that Juju needs to be complimented. We saw Juju's production just be outstanding alongside Antonio Brown. If Deontay Johnson can come in, and obviously he's no AB, but if he can come in and just play that role, I think the Pittsburgh offense will be complemented really well, and Deontay Johnson will be a nice fantasy sleeper this year.
Well, before we let you go, Isaac, tell us a little something about your upcoming podcast here with Showcase Sports Media and where we can kind of find that.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually be co-hosting this podcast with my father. He's got a lot of experience in NFL media. He used to have his own fantasy show and podcast, so we're going to expand on that a little bit. We're going to incorporate IDP talk into the podcast, which is individual defensive players. It's a way to play fantasy, that really incorporates a whole new level of thinking and strategizing because you're starting those linebackers, D linemen, secondary players. So it's really fun. We're going to talk a lot about that, and then obviously of every other aspect of fantasy. You can look for that in the near future.
Wow, super cool. So be on the lookout for that. And Isaac, where can we kind of find you on social media?
Yeah, it's just Isaac Goold on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thanks for having me, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you hit me up soon for some more football fantasy talk.
Of course. Thanks for coming on, Isaac. Again, you can find him on social media at Isaac Goold, or check out showcasesportsmedia.com for updates on his content.
How about some games to watch for this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Heat and the Bucks series is going to be absolutely ginormous. I really think it's going to go to 6 or 7 games, so that's definitely a series to watch.
E, I got to go with the Bruins and Lightning series. Of course, the Lightning are up 3-1 in that series. So I'm interested to see if the Bruins can kind of make a comeback, kind of take one game at a time. That's all you can really do at this point. Any closing thoughts, E?
Yeah, absolutely. Check out our website, showcasesportsmedia.com. Check us out on Instagram at Showcase Sports Media. Give us a good review on Apple Podcasts if you like our content.
That's going to be a wrap. Cheers from Showcase Sports Media. We'll see you next week.